And take two. I got interrupted, and my phone didn't like the fact that I paused the video and then had to go do something else. I had a call come in. It's like, oh. But it was my mother, so let's go back and do this again. Back to the top. Uh, Again, this is a video about the Mark Rosewater, what I call the text spoilers that he's done for last, I don't know how many sets now. So we're going to start this again. First up, a new evergreen counter. Now, for those of you that don't understand what an evergreen counter is, it is something like a +1/+1 counter, a lifelink counter, a vigilance counter, a death touch counter, a flying counter, any type of counter that is basically uses an evergreen keyword, which are any of the like first strike, death touch, flying, vigilance, whatnot. So we're gonna get something new, which will probably, as I would imagine, be something that ties in with infect, because we're dealing with Phyrexians here. And this, in this Dominaria set, we're dealing, this is the spoilers about Dominaria United. I forgot to mention that because I'm having to restart this video, and I did all that intro in the video that no longer exists. Okay. Next, a popular Planeswalker card gets a reprint. Now we know that there are numerous Planeswalkers in this set from what's already been spoiled, from what's on the cards. For those that follow my catchers, also known as the Magic Historians Fantasy Geographic channel. So, in the comments below, I'd love for you guys to give your guesses on some of these things, like the new Evergreen counter, who you think the new Planeswalker is. My personal guess, and those of some of my friends, one of my friends believes it might be Teferi Time Raveler, also known as 3 Fairy. That would be interesting. Now we know that he's in this set. So, these things are starting to make me hopeful and hopefully prove me wrong that this is, an intro set, like a core set. Next up is a interesting thing. It says a blue card with destroy all creatures. Now that is very, very interesting. Because blue doesn't usually have any type of sweepers in it. And there's only been one card before this that says, destroy creatures, all non-wall creatures, and that was Siren's Call. And that's way back in the day. So this should be interesting. A 5 mana value creature that can be a 10/10. I'm thinking maybe something along the lines of a level up type creature, like like the Phyrexian we already have. We already have that that little Phyrexian. What is it now? Up here, Evolved Sleeper. Something like that, along those lines. That's what I think that's gonna. 3 original Weatherlight crew members are in the set. Now, again, this type of stuff is spoiled over on Fantasy Geographic. What's in some of who those characters are. An ability word that didn't start as an ability word returns. Some might think that this is poison or infect. That's most likely something along those lines. Again, like I said, we're dealing with Phyrexians here. A rare cycle of +1/+1 granting lords. That could be interesting for commander, tribal, all those things. Excuse me. Now, the next one is interesting. A card that grants poison. Now, is it poison counters? Is it infect counters? Now, that's interesting. Another thing for you guys to postulate down in the comments. Now, these next two, again, have me very hopeful to prove me wrong that this is, an intro set, that it's for beginners. And this next one is very, very exciting. It says, a new artifact with Lotus in the name. Now, for those of you that have been playing Magic for a while, and for those of you that have been playing Magic longer than I have, you know that any card with Lotus in the name, there's no bad card with Lotus in the name. None. All of them are bangers. The least of them is the Lotus Petal, and even then that sees play in numerous decks. The last one that had Lotus in the name, the Jeweled Lotus out of Commander Legends, that thing is shot to the moon. That thing is like rocket launch, rocket launch, rocket launch. That was like the chase card out of Commander Legends. The Jeweled Lotus. Get a Lotus and call it a day. Now, this is like a standard set, so your collector's packs will have the etched and the full art and the full art foil. Hoo-ha! Outside of just the regular pack foil. So yeah, a Lotus card in etched. Yeah, full art foil. Can someone say chase card? Okay, the next one. If this is what a lot of people are postulating, if this is what we think it is, this will absolutely prove me wrong that this is an intro set, a beginner set, a starter set. This will prove me wrong that the set wasn't and prove a lot of other people that have said that the set wasn't very good, so they put these found legends in the set to beef it up. So it says a character players have been requesting get a card for years, finally gets one. Now, I know of only one card that players have been clamoring every time, especially every time we return to the plane of Dominaria. They've been clamoring. Can we see this card? Is this card going to be in this set? I mean, even before this came out, people were wondering, can we see this card? And a lot of people thought, well, maybe in the next set, Brothers War, because it deals with this card. And I'm going to put it out there. The fully planeswalkered Urza. I mean, red jeweled eyes, Urza Planeswalker. I mean, we're talking Urza's race, and I don't think a lot of people want to see him, but he may be, the salvation against the Phyrexians. And we have never ever seen a fully, and there was something in the unset, the headless Urza and everything, because he was supposed to have had his head cut off in the stories, but we don't know exactly what's canon and what's not, story wise, except for the official story that's been released for the sets. That's the only thing we really know is canon, supposedly. Canon. So if this is Urza, between the Lotus and this, can you say chase cards? Can you say screw the it makes having the legends in there almost insignificant. I mean, hoo-ha! Okay, next is as long as enchanted creature is legendary. These are some stuff that'll pop up in the rules text in the text box of these creatures. As long as enchanted creature is legendary. So something that cares about legendary creatures. And we know from we know that there's going to be some legendary creatures in here, and those of you that have been following on Fantasy Geographic know some of those legendary creatures. But that gives rise to something. This gives a thought to put out there. Is there going to be a card that takes the legendary thing away from creatures? And again, this might bolster some stuff that is from the Baldur's Gate set. And again, I said this in my deleted video. I will not call it Commander Legend. It really doesn't deserve that name. It's Baldur's Gate, and that might bolster that set and might make that set more desirable. Next up is you may exile an instant or sorcery card with mana value X or less from among them. That could be a lot of things, but it's some sort of removal, probably removal, and you get to play one of those cards or whatnot. Next is exile each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Well, there goes your white weenie deck. Next up is if X is 3 or less. Okay, that could be a lot of different things, but so I don't have any clue there. Next up is for each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. There's something for your commander deck. Because for each opponent who doesn't. Okay, so They lose 2 life and you draw a card, so you can draw. You know, they each lose 2 life and you draw 3 cards. If you're playing in a commander format, so that's interesting. Instant or sorcery card with mana value 1 or 2. Now, some of your weenie sorceries can be really powerful, so that you can either bolster or deny that. So that could be an interesting card. Pay any amount of mana. That's been that scene has been seen, or very iterations of something like that have been seen before. So we don't know what that will be. The next one, this is big. I mean, we're talking big. We're talking Australian big. Vehicles you control have crew 1. We already know from above that the Weatherlight is going to be in here. There are vehicles on Dominaria. Big vehicles, perihelion, Shurikai Genesis engine. Now imagine that when it has a crew of 8 to have a crew of 1. Crunch, 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 crunch. Put that in a commander deck with white weenies and whatever makes them have crew 1. Crunch, 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 crunch. Okay. And then the final one for the text, the rules, is where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. So this makes me think we're going to get a decent number of legendary creatures. And again, this will bolster Baldur's Gate. Now, finally, I get to the last part, and these are creature types. Now, this is going to be creature Dryad Warrior. Now, that's interesting because you don't usually see Dryads as warriors. But again, there's some things in Fantasy Geographic, especially the last chapter that was put out of chapter 4, that you might see that. Creature Phyrexian Horse. That's interesting. Phyrexian Horse. Okay. Okay, this next one. Super interesting. Creature. Elf Archer in red. Now, you don't normally see... In fact, you hardly ever see any type of elf archer outside of green. And, it's either, green or green-red. You don't see elf archers in strictly red. So that should be an interesting card. Next up, creature Lurgoyf. Please, please, please do Lurgoyf right. Get back to the original Lurgoyfs. Creature Human Core Soldier. So a half-breed core and human? Okay. We'll deal with that. Now it says legendary creature Elemental Demon. What the heck is that? I have no clue. I have no clue as to what that is. Next up is legendary creature Frog Beast. Really? Frog Beast? I mean, the only major legendary frog I can think of, outside of maybe the Gitrog monster, is Yargle. Now, Yargo would be a nice addition to this set. Yargo. Now, in some there was some reference to Yargo might have, on the text of one card, the Yargo might have gotten destroyed by Muldrotha, but we, just like in the comics, unless you see Yargle dead, or it specifically says that Yargle is dead, we don't know. Um, the next one is interesting. Elf, legendary creature, Elf Artificer. Elves don't generally, dabble in artifact creation because they're all about natural, and artifacts are artificial. But again, on Fantasy Geographic, we might have an idea of who that is, so I'll leave those spoilers for you to find out. Legendary creature Viashino Warlock. That should be interesting. Legendary creature, finally, legendary creature Merfolk, Phyrexian Merfolk Wizard. Okay. A legendary Phyrexian Merfolk Wizard. That, I don't know who that could be, but that sounds very powerful, and that's no bueno. Well, my video is running almost 22 minutes now, so I'm going to say leave notes in the comments below about what you think this might be, and we'll try to figure these things out, because spoilers are coming. Thursday is coming. Thursday the 18th, they're going to release spoilers. They're going to release, all the next sets. It all starts at 9 a.m. Pacific. So be there. Check them out on Twitch. Here on YouTube. It's going to be a crazy, crazy day. You guys have a wonderful day. Peace, love, automatic weapons.